In my free time, I like to create characters using AI. Creating characters and bringing them to life is honestly how I got into AI to begin with. And that's how I stay learning and building and creating things like this detective game that I've been working on for the past year or so. To highlight some of the difficulty in character creation, my process, I want to talk about a fan favorite in the genre of characters, the villain.
Life's not fair, is it? You see, I shall never be king. And you shall never see the light of another day.
Have you ever talked to an LLM and been refused an answer? Gotten something back like, I'm not allowed to do that. Sorry, that's illegal. Or I can't help you with that. All of these messages are what's called refusal. And this is something that's built in to the fine-tuning of almost every commercial large language model that there is. In one of the more open OpenAI papers for Instruct GPT, you can see that they've used training data to make sure that these models are helpful, honest, and harmless. And this affects everything that a large language model says. Hopefully, by now, you can imagine that a villain is not going to check those three boxes. In fact, this training is so strong that it actually causes quite a few incorrect refusals. And in this nice little diagram made by the Anthropic team, you can see that there's quite a few incorrect refusals that are blocking perfectly okay sentences. So even when I'm asking an LLM to pretend to be a bad guy, you can see where there might be some trouble. Of course, there's always ways around, and the open source Dolphin 2.6 mixture model has its alignment and bias removed. What that means is if you're trying to use this for making an AI villain, you have a new problem. And the new problem is that it's more compliant, right? So you still have to build a system to control what your villain says and cannot say. Now, before we get into system design, I want to talk about motive. This is something that causes a person to act. What can we do to motivate people in a detective game to give us the information that we need? Depending on who they are, their motivations might be different. Maybe if I'm kind to somebody, they'll help me out. Maybe if I align with their objectives, their goals, they'll help me out. Maybe if I'm aggravating, I'll get the right information that I need from somebody. Ultimately, motivations and all of this comes down to emotion. I built this emotion system built off of the concept of valence in this book, how emotions are made. This is the valence system. It's just two axes. One is about how positively or negatively you feel, and the other is how engaged or disengaged you are. It says arousal on this, and we don't use that kind of language with the LLM because it has some unintended connotations that go along with it. So talk about high engagement or being disengaged. What's really cool about using the valence system is that we don't prescribe an emotion to the AI. We just say somewhere over here, and allow the context of the conversation for the AI to pick out how it feels within this chart. So we never prescribe the emotion. We just kind of assign a value here and connect it to these words here. Now, you can see when the valence is positive, we have calmed down Mrs. Johnson, and she's ready to act. In this first tutorial level, Mrs. Johnson is too stressed out to be able to give you the right information that you need as an investigator to help her find her cat. And by helping her get to the right part of this chart, she has now unlocked new abilities in which she can give you items in the game. Now, to talk about how all these systems, like valence, helpfulness, and cooperation, come together into gameplay mechanics, we're going to pop into the first tutorial level of Mind Game. And in here, we're going to be helping Mrs. Johnson find her cat. When we find Mrs. Johnson, we can kind of tell that she's distressed, right? She's actually not going to cooperate with us until we calm her down. And now, while Mrs. Johnson isn't a villain, this lack of cooperation is going to be similar for villains. They're not going to cooperate. They might be hiding their intentions, that they are a villain altogether, right? What kind of tells does a character have to let you know that you can affect their behavior? In this case, it's body language. And it should be simple enough to reassure her that we can find this cat. And let's start right now. She's calmed down. Now we can ask her for that tin of sardines. And just like that, I get the tin of sardines. I also find out that she has a particular fondness for motor oil. So perhaps she's near a garage or workshop. It's a really good tip. And we're gonna walk over this way. And I have some of these other NPCs just housing some other AI projects that I worked on. And right here, I can see I've repurposed my DK Diner code for this. You can say, motor oil, please. Oh. That. All right. Now we have the cat here. Now that I have the motor oil and the sardines, I can talk to the cat and give him the sardines. And you'll see that the cat will follow me. Back to Mrs. Johnson. And that's a tutorial level. It's also, unfortunately, probably the last level that I see myself making in this game. Truth is, while I now have some experience with Unity development, I do not have a talent or an interest to be a Unity developer. So, all of the code for this is now going to be available online and freely available to you guys to tinker around and take it to the next level. Now, if you do have any other further questions about how that code works, or how the agents that were built in voiceflow plug into this game, you can reach out to me. I'd be curious to see somebody else take the torch. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.